Hi, in this video we'll be looking at chapter 5 in your book called the forms and HTML helpers. So we will go through what a language integrated query is, LINQ. We will go through how to use some extension methods instead of writing full LINQ queries. We will be looking at some of the HTML helpers that are available. And we will also do some hands-on at the end of this chapter. If you have, so far what we have done is we have created this MVC Music Store application. We saw how the code that got generated automatically and provided us with the basic CRUD operations, right? Create, read, update, delete operations. And it's a little overwhelming to look at the code because there is a lot of, HTML helpers in the views. There is a lot of extension methods being used, queries are being done. So it is really important for us to deep dive into some of these areas so we can get a little bit more comfortable with what the code is doing for us. Okay. So what I'm going to do to start with is I pulled out my MVC Music Store application. I'm going to go to my Store Manager controller and I am going to add a method just a dummy method. So the idea here is I just want to show how we can do some queries using LINQ and then change it to show how we can use the extension methods that are provided instead of actual LINQ queries. So that is what we are going to be doing. So this is just a test method. It is not going to be part of the store manager at all, just for us to play around with. Okay, so because I have an action method, I also want to have a view under store manager. So I'm going to be creating, I'm not going to do any model binding here, empty without model. That's what I want. And I want it to match with my action method. The one thing I want to do is I want to bind this view, of course, to my albums so I can step through albums. But let me defer that. Let's forget about it for a second. Let's go to our store manager controller. If you look at our store manager, we have access to this database context. This is our main connection to our database. So I'm going to be calling in this DB object inside my test. What's going on here? So if you look at music store database object, so I'm going into the definition. Going into music store database, right? Here we have the three entities here that we are using. They are all database sets. So we can do a query on them and they will store the results. So I have access to albums, artists, and genres. Those are our three tables. So let me go back to my store manager controller. So this is a straightforward way for me to access albums, right? So because the return type is going to be DB set, even though I said a var declaration here, it automatically knows what kind of an object I'm going to be having. So let's keep that aside. Let's say I want to do a query on my database. That's my albums table. I want to do a query where I filter by the name of an album. And I just want to send that to my view. So how would that look like? So I would say album by name. So LINQ query always goes this way. It says from what source? This is how a link query looks. And a link is not just link is not just for stepping through databases. It can also be used to query just anything that is enumerable, right? In any object um, that can be inherited from the enumerable type, where you can step through like arrays, lists, any of those you can use link queries for. So here what I'm doing is I'm just doing a query. So link, always you have to remember, you have to say the data source first, and then you can filter, and then select A. So what's going to happen is from these albums, so A is going to be like a temporary variable. So you're saying where a.artist.name is whatever, select A. So that A is going to be returned to this album by name. Okay. So let's look at this guy. So it is an iQueryable album object. So this is how we write link queries. Let's look at another example. Album by, oh, sorry. That's the name of our album. So this is a wrong query. Album's title. So okay, album by name is I wanna like use a specific title and pull out a specific album. And that's what I want to return. The second one is album by artist. Here what I do is from a artist.name. That returns. So I'm trying to like do some filtering here, right? So if you say like normally when we do SQL, we say select a column from a table where order by. That's how we normally go. Link is a little different. It goes from the source, then you have your filter, and finally you do your select and return that value. So let's do one more query. Album by genre. Okay, so these are three different queries. So let us look at this classical one. Add one more criteria there. Order by title. So I want it to order by um, the name of the album in a descending order. So all my W's and X and Y and Z should be on the top. So this is what I'm saying. This is kind of what I want. So let's first just run this. There is nothing in the view, right? The view has nothing. It just says test. But I'm going to like step through the code and just like show you what we get here. Let's build it.